Coming through.
Yeah, I really did. I botched this up. I was so intimidated by this next gentleman coming from I'm not sure where, but I'm gonna let him tell us in a little bit. I was sitting on my mic and nobody could hear me. So we'll start this over. We've got an amazing guest who I've been watching from afar for almost 3 years now, and I'm glad he's here in Dallas. His name is Jarret Chirico, is that correct? He's the director of Racquet Sports at Royal Oaks. Did I say it right? Or I messed that up.
You actually got it.
Oh my God, I did something right! Well, great. How are you, miss? How are you, sir?
Doing great. Thanks for having me. I've heard a lot about you since I've moved to Dallas, and it's an amazing place to live. I never thought in my life that I'd be living in Texas. I thought Cowboys down here, and honestly, there's no better place in this country to be. So I'm so happy to be here.
Well, you come highly recommended, and a lot of the old school guys would tell. I consider myself an old school guy. I'll be 48 this Sunday, and my brother and my sister. I'm a triplet, but I heard amazing things, and I heard how you are just on the forefront of pickleball, and God bless you and the pickleball gods for coming to Dallas. We're glad you're here. So tell me more about when you're all these. You got all these certifications. You got the PTR, PPR, PPTR. We know USPTO. What are these things for our players and professionals?
I'm a big believer in certifications, not because I've ever believed that getting a few initials or doing a certification does anything for you as a professional. I think it shows your dedication to the industry. But the biggest thing that they do is they provide a network. And, for me, being a director and being in the country club and focusing on rackets as a whole, my peers, the other directors, general managers, that's where I've always learned the most. And I think that leaders have to push each other to really further their careers and to further the industry as a whole. And through all these organizations, I've been very fortunate with the people that I've met. And for me now, I speak nationally. I probably speak at 15, 20 conferences a year. Yeah. And it really just started with, the professional tennis registry and US PTA, and then, grew from there. But for me, I make sure all my staff is certified because I want to know that they're, dedicated to this industry. I don't want someone coming in and working for me that wants to be a lawyer or a doctor. They're here part-time. I want people that want to be directors because, that's my job. My job is to be a mentor, to further them in their career. And in return, they're going to take care of my members. And so really, it looks kind of crazy with all those little things.
No, it's intimidating, man. I've only got the PTA, the IPTPA, and the USR. Say, man, I don't even have that many. It's one of those things, like you said. I know if it's the same general manager that was when I was at Royal Oaks a couple of years ago. You got an amazing man there, and he's one that's always been on the side of the racket sports side of a club, because we know the bulk of from clubs come from a different area other than tennis or now pickleball and sometimes padel where I'm at. But that's good you do that, because it keeps me on my toes. If someone came in who I worked for and they said, you got to renew your stuff, let's get this going, show me your dedication. I think that's great. No, I know that's great, and I love that you also said you want to be a mentor. You want to have directors move on somewhere else and take over and say they worked with you. I think that's very admirable. I really think that's good. So let's go to, when did you get into pickleball?
So for me, it was kind of in spite of even this, I didn't even want to be involved in pickleball in the beginning. I grew up as a tennis player. I was, in junior, I grew up at Bollettieri's. I was 15 in the world, one in the country. Wow. So when I tell this story all over when I started giving my talks, because, I want directors to see the path. It's not, most people are like, you get to be a director, you become complacent. I'm never going to do pickleball. I only do tennis. I don't need pickleball. We've all heard it. But for me, I was at a club called Green Valley in Philadelphia, and it was a smaller club. We had 3 indoor hard courts and 4 outdoor clay. And, there was one summer where we did $94,000 in junior camps. And at a time where people would be excited and they'd be like, oh my God, this is the highest we've ever done. Like, the club's doing amazing. I was terrified because I knew, we can never hit that again. And, if you just do tennis, it's a roller coaster. You're up, you're down, you're up, you're down.
Yes.
And so I started searching for what's next. We had colleges, like how do we create more revenue, grow participation? And there used to be pickleball behind where I lived. And my wife one day, was like, we're going to go play. And she dragged me there. I was like, I teach tennis for a living. I'm not going out there.
You're kicking and screaming, I don't want to go.
I'm not doing that. And, but when I got there, I was amazed that there were 50 people playing.
Yeah.
They were helping each other. They were putting $1 in a shoebox to pay nets and balls. And I was like, this is amazing. So she dragged me there, and then she had to drag me to leave because I didn't leave after 2 hours. I was like, this is the greatest thing ever. And then it just grew. We did an off-peak hours, so we weren't renting indoor courts.
Yes.
We started with 17, then went to 25, then to 50 on Friday nights. And by the time I left Philadelphia, and this club's still doing it today, they have over 1,000 people that play pickleball weekly. So it really grew, from me not wanting to do it to recognizing how much fun it is. And then, something that directors really don't think of, which they should, is because, it's not just tennis anymore. It's not pickleball, it's rackets. So when you're down here, it's tennis and pickleball. When you're up north, it's tennis, pickleball, paddle, squash. Sometimes you add padel in there, like you guys at T-Bar.
Yes.
And a director's job is not just, if I just had a director of tennis, pickleball, squash, paddle, they'd all do average. Yeah. But a true director is figuring out how do you connect the dots from tennis to pickleball and vice versa. And on average, what I found was if you have, let's just say 100 people playing pickleball, on average, there's a 30% crossover rate. So if you're just playing pickleball for the first time, there's a 30% crossover rate from people that will play tennis. In good clubs, when I was at Baltimore Country Club, our crossover rate was 83%. Yeah, and here at Royal Oaks right now, the reason why, when I started, the club almost doubled. When you look at, if you're looking at revenue, we went from $975,000 to over $2 million a year. And that's from the number of people that are on the courts playing, but it's also from that crossover rate from one sport pulling to another sport. You're being able to pull golfers and people from all over. Oh, wow. And here our crossover rate's already up to 56%. So what pickleball does is, and I hear this all over the country, is, I don't need pickleball, or what's it going to do, or how do I monetize it? And my whole thing is, if I can fill the courts with tennis, that's amazing.
Excuse me.
But how many people can you put on a pickleball court? 50 people on a pickleball court. That's 50 opportunities to promote my tennis programs, to promote my junior programs.
Amen.
So it's programs growing programs.
I love it. Sorry, excuse me. Excuse me. Man, I wish I would have known you in my previous life. I love it. I love it. I was at Brookhaven for 10 years, and you're correct. A lot of pros got complacent. That's my biggest fear. I was taught the day you stop learning is the day you stop living. That's what my parents always told me, and I think that it's very important that you grow, because therefore being complacent is the scariest word in the world for any director. Because then you got to go in, because then you'll hear all these other things as to why they don't want to do this and that, and that's fine. Everybody's wired differently. There's no disrespect to that. I think it's great that everybody finds their niche. But the one thing that I heard a couple years ago that I really sat wrong with me with regards to pickleball was, I had a couple of directors say, well, it's not going to generate much money. It's just like a mini sport. And I said, no, I don't look at it as a mini sport. I look at it as offering another opportunity for members or patrons of this facility or club to try something new, because we don't know what they're thinking, right? That's how I think it's great you said that.
You're absolutely right, and the biggest problem with a lot of the directors is we're always scared of the unknown, and you get really good at doing something, and then as soon as you start doing something well, you're afraid to do anything else. And we all know to succeed you have to fail. And when you think of the industry as a whole, the true value for our members is the options that we're giving.
Yes, them. Correct.
And if we don't provide those options, they're going to go somewhere else.
Exactly. And then we'll say about those leave. I mean, that's how I am.
And then they'll be gone. But pickleball in general, it's the number of people that you can put on the court. That's the value. It grows all over of the every program. But the thing to remember too is, in the next 5 years, we're going to lose about 30% of tennis pros nationally. That's just a hard fact. And rackets is now bigger than it's ever been. COVID helped, but now it's all these racket sports are doing well. So there's so much more demand on pros. So it really comes down to the directors to lead, and like you said, the certifications, and keep pushing each other to learn. We have constantly want to do better, and we owe that to our memberships.
Yeah, and I say those pros. I mean, it's what's amazing to me is the years I've been around here. Graduated college in '97 and been here, worked every format of a club, private, public, corporately owned, and I found that when you have somebody at the top, that's where it starts. And I had my previous boss on, who's semi-retired at Brookhaven, on 2 weeks ago, and we had some funny stories, but he was basically, you're a younger version of Billy Freer, the way you're talking, and he led by example. And I applaud that, and I think it's great that you're doing that. So I'll get your autograph later maybe. You got to check with your agent, but we'll see. So these some of these questions I've got for you, the how, you explained everything. So with regards to like, I had these questions for them. I had why and how, and now I go to what brand of pickleball do you enjoy? Do you market all kinds? What are your thoughts on any type of certain brand?
I think I'm big in, a lot of paddles play exactly the same until they're weighted. I think paddles go from good to great when they're weighted. So I'm a big believer that, for all of our members, we put the weights on so that they can play better. And I've used, I'm the vice president of the PPR. So through them, I've gotten the head, and then, Colin Johns is my head pro.
Yeah.
So I've used, you name it, I've used it. Right now I'm using a paddle called Pello. And it's actually one member here made it when I started, and he doesn't even play pickleball. I don't know why he created a paddle. And he's like, when I started, he's like, will you try my paddle? And I get this all the time. Like I helped Adidas start their paddles, and most paddles are complete shit.
Yeah.
And that when people try to do it themselves.
Yeah.
And I tried this guy's paddle, and it was absolutely amazing, like game-changing amazing.
Yeah.
And so like in the shop, I carry, 6 different
I know
brands.
That's nice, man. I saw that.
But I think Pello is a fantastic paddle that I really believe in, and he keeps pushing it further, and that's probably the one I like the most right now.
So what are your thoughts like on? I have people, because I'm working on something similar with regards to what you're doing, and I can't discuss it. I really can't right now, but I'm doing similar to what you're doing, and I would say that how many. I've heard these numbers. You know more than me, so please correct me. I love knowing the right thing, not the wrong thing. So probably 2 or 3 years ago, I've heard there was maybe 100, 150 paddle companies max, and like the past, they said 6 to 8 months, we're like over 500 companies now. Is that correct? Or something?
Yeah, it's a crazy number like that. Yeah.
Oh, so much crap in that. Yeah, you're right. So on the weighting aspect of the paddle, do you do it like a tennis racket, like 3 and 9, or 6 and 9, or 6 and 12? How do you do that?
So I had, working for Colin Johns is one of my best friends in the world.
Oh, tell us that story about him. Yeah.
And I got really lucky getting him to work for me. I was friends with Ben before Ben was Ben, when he was just getting into pickleball.
Yeah.
Kyle Yates brought him up to Philadelphia. Yes. And they're from Maryland. So I needed a head pro at the time that, Colin was a pro tennis player. I needed someone that could do 2 sports, and then he could do paddle. And Colin Johns is great at platform tennis too. The guy is immensely talented.
Oh, wow.
But he's also, Colin, I always tell him he's like a sloth. Like it takes him, he's so articulate that it takes him so long to do something, but it's the best product ever. So he got me into weighting because he weighted my paddles, and I'm like, can you just throw some weight on? And it would literally take him like an hour to do. The grip's perfect. But I think paddles in general, when you buy them, paddles, you want a paddle that comes, anywhere from 7.4 to 7.8. And the ideal weight for a paddle after it's weighted is like 8.5 to, I'd say 8.9 at the highest. Yeah. There's some paddles that come heavier that you can buy, like, Babolat makes one that comes at 8.11. Wow. And there does come a point where it's too heavy and you can't modify it anymore. Yeah. But then it just depends on what are you doing. If you're trying to roll more, like the better you get, 5.0 plus, and you can roll more, you want it more head heavy, so you can roll the ball. If you're a lower level, it's more in the middle because you're trying to shovel the ball a little bit more and scoop it. But the thing for weight for me is when you teach players, the biggest problem with pickleball is people are very wristy. So to lock that wrist, and when the paddle's heavier, you don't have to do anything. The ball flies over. Yeah. And, the other thing, since you were talking about, a big stat when people think about pickleball is, 99 million Americans don't do any sport at all. They don't do anything. They play video games, they watch TV, they go to work. And that's at the core who started getting into to pickleball.
Yeah.
So if you were to measure, a pickleball, if you were to measure who could play pickleball, you would do it with a football field. And if you were to measure who could play tennis, you do it with a yardstick. Meaning there's so many more people that can play pickleball.
Wow.
So now through little tools such as weighting the paddles and different things like that, you can get somebody playing pretty quickly.
You think they'll limit that one day?
What'd you say?
You think they'll limit the paddles one day, or have a certain length or stuff like that, or size one day like they did in tennis?
No, because the specs are there. What they did is they raised the prices considerably recently, going up again. I think that's how USA Pickleball makes a lot of their money. So I think they'll have people can create at least for the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
But I think the prices are going to start going up substantially, and that'll limit them.
Wow. So, of all your endeavors in the sport that you'd like to discuss, what is your, when I say endeavors, and I'll let our players and our hopefully pickleball professionals and new people to pickleball listen to us here pretty soon, Jarret has tirelessly been talking pickleball all across the United States, and I would, and so I mean he's also one of our reps, David Blakely, who's been around for 30 years. He's a good friend. He's still my rep. He's very keen on what Jarret's thoughts are on paddles, and I respect that. And so, of all the endeavors you do, all the places you go to talk and amazing stuff you do, what's your current endeavor right now?
So I'm doing a bunch of things right now. In the next year, I'll become the president of the Professional Pickleball Registry, which is great because we've been able to really do a lot with just getting people involved and growing it. And my focus, I'm very close with Dan Santorum, another one of my mentors. Mm-hmm. And, the whole story there one day, that would be a good interview, because just to hear how he got into pickleball big time because USTA pulled PTR's accreditation and they gave it to USPTA.
That's right. Oh,
and at a time where PTR could have crumbled.
I remember that.
He doubled down on pickleball, which grew them way more members than they lost. And if you look at it as of last week or 2 weeks ago, PTR has never been closer with USPTA, with USTA, and USPTA is now, lost a lot of their accreditation or decided not to take it back.
Yeah.
So that's pretty spectacular. I'm on a committee with USA Pickleball that's with USTA, and what you guys are going to see in the next, hopefully, year, at most 2 years, is 10 and under tennis courts are going to be shrunk an inch on both sides, and they're going to use a pickleball size court, which is going to be huge nationally because, especially for Parks and Rec, they want to hold pickleball tournaments too.
Yeah.
So it allows them to cross promote, and also, 10 and under tennis, people get better at tennis on pickleball courts because it's a smaller court, they rally quicker. And then, other than, all the stuff, the talks I'm doing with CMAA and at the symposiums coming up, I just launched, it's called the Directors Club. And the website is the directorsclubofamerica.com. And what it is, it's going to be, we have about 80 members now. I'm expecting to have 500 by the end of the year. The end of next year. And it's a national platform for directors, club managers, and leaders to really come together, get educated, push each other, and really help each other through conferences and education sessions, from anything for how do you write a contract, how do you get a contract, what are you worth, to, why do we need pickleball, how do you monetize, how do you program it. Really, it's a focus on a place so that directors can do better. And by directors doing better, they're also going to, help their staff do better.
Yeah.
And at the core of what we do, any success I have, you have, all of us, it's 100% dependent on our people. And next month, tennis, I'll be on the cover of Boardroom Magazine, which is pretty amazing. It's the first time that tennis has ever gotten a cover. And that, that just shows where we are as an industry.
Yeah.
Tennis isn't the stepchild of a country club anymore. It's now the one that's bringing in more members. It's got the highest touch point of any point in the club. If you look at any successful club that has a big tennis program, there's more touch points at tennis than the pool, food and beverage, golf, all together. It's the one place that brings the whole family. And that's because it's now rackets. There's multiple amenities. It's not just tennis. It's not the women play tennis, the men go play golf, and then you eat. Now people are coming to the Racquet's facility. They're staying longer. They're playing tennis. They're playing pickleball. They're going to lunch. The kids are doing camp. It's a place for the whole family. So, it's a really exciting time. And, I think for me, it's whenever I feel a little stressed out or, I'm outside of my comfort zone, it's when I know something really great is about to happen. That's what everybody.
I understand that. It's kind of like, I don't like to be apprehensive with regards to a lot of things. But it's funny. It's kind of like this opportunity, this show. When I was offered this show, I thought the guy was crazy. I thought he was messing with me. Because, when I started doing this 4 years ago, pickleball, the journey, it was not easy, and you know that. And a lot of these people I grew up with, or who I thought were my friends, ridiculed me a little bit. And you got tough skin. You got to have tough skin if you're going to play tennis in a state that's not even really big. I grew up in Missouri and Kansas and went to college in Oklahoma, and it's not a big deal. It's always football, soccer, baseball. That's it, right? So you learn to have tough skin. And I'm gracious that a lot of these people are reaching back out to me to help them with programming. I do want the information on what you talked about because I want to attend that and sign up for register for it. But we'll get that at the end. But yeah, I wish, I wish I could work for you. I'm kidding. But all right, well, if you have a little more time, we could just like talk about you and your, maybe family, where you're from, brothers, sisters, who's Jarret Chirico?
I'm kind of from all over now. Originally, I was born in New Jersey. I grew up in just outside of Philadelphia, and when I was 10, I moved to Bradenton, Florida. My whole family moved because my brother and I got scholarships to go to Bollettieri, and I was there until I was 18, until my brother was 18, and my parents still have a house there. So we go back, and so my brother's back up in Philadelphia. My parents are back and forth between New Jersey and Florida. And before here, I was in Annapolis. So the country club's like anything else. You work your way up. You get opportunities. You move where the opportunity is. And I was at Baltimore Country Club before, which is a top 50 platinum club. It's gorgeous. I lived in Annapolis, Maryland. Wow. And then I got the opportunity to come here, and this is, this was my dream opportunity, and I love this club. And
did you?
It's funny when you think about coming full circle. I'm actually interviewing Nick Bollettieri for, Nick's been sick. He's 92, and he's just getting old, and he's done so much for me, and he just got out of the hospital, and he called me, and it's exciting. I'm gonna interview him next week. It's gonna be a three-part 45-minute interview, and the focus really is on recognizing opportunity. Because Nick spends so much time talking about all the people he coached and his wives, ex-wives, and all that. But the real interesting thing that I think people should hear about with Nick is, from a guy that came from New York to being in Florida at a country club to doing camps in wherever he was, Minnesota or Michigan, to IMG. At some point, he always jumped off the deep end and took a huge risk to either, and he could have failed, burned every time he did it. And that's really what I want people to hear. So, I'm pretty excited for that. But, I guess that's my thing is you just never know when opportunity is going to be there, and you just got to constantly put yourself out there. And, the more you help others, the more it comes full circle.
So you said, you're putting out you said 3-part, is that 3 45-minute interviews, just one 45-minute spread out?
It's going to be 3 45-minute interviews. Wow. I'm trying to get it in 2. But depending on how tired he is and what we can get, it might be 3, and then we're going to release it through PTR to email it out to all their members, which I think will be nice for people to learn from, and then we'll just put it on YouTube and all their social media platforms.
So you're liking Dallas. Have you had any really good places you've eaten that stand out right now, or no? Ours is we got this place called Roma's. It's over there off Greenville and Park. It's a small Italian place. Pretty expensive, but we like it.
I haven't been to Roma yet. I mean, God, but people don't really know about Dallas, and if they don't know, they should come and find out. Every place you eat is so good.
And it's fast. It's good service, right? It's pretty quick. You don't have to wait there forever.
It's unbelievable. I mean, it just depends where you want. Hudson House is one of my favorites for burgers. El
Yes.
Bracco is one of my wife's favorites. R&D Kitchen, all the regular places.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Yummy Donuts for my kids.
Oh yeah. You got kids? You said you had 3 kids. We have
I
2
got
boys. So I think you have
I
3.
got a four, 3, and 1.
Oh my God, you are like in the. Okay, I get it. Yeah. Wow, that's a lot. I just have 2 boys. The one's in 8th, the other's in 6th grade, and we're my wife and I've we've been together 22 years, been married for 18. And,
That's awesome.
She's pretty cool. So, well, look, hey, I know you're really busy, and I want to let you get to your day, but maybe would you want to come back on sometime further down the road just to circle back and maybe
Anytime.
catch up?
This is fantastic. I'd love to, and I just want to thank you for doing this, because this is what the industry needs. The more people can get educated and learn. Listen, pickleball is growing. It's underreported, and they're reporting it growing at just under 40% a year. So, in 5 years, it will be the #1 played racket sport in this country, and that will 100% boost tennis. So, just so people know, if they don't know the stats, last year 1.3 million people started playing tennis who never played the sport because they played pickleball. So, rackets is growing together. It's truly an amazing time to be a part of it. So thank you for doing this.
Oh, well, you're welcome. And I would love to have you back on again. And it'll be like a format of your choosing. Like I want you to show some of the things you're doing and maybe bring somebody on, And so really real quick, so please talk about that the directors thing you're having again at the end of this year. How to get in touch with that? What was the email address?
It's called the Directors with an S, the Directors Club of America.com. And what it is every month we do. I have CFOs of companies. One of the CFOs of Blackstone is doing it. I've got the biggest GMs in the country on there. We do two Zoom calls. It's a 2-hour moderated lecture.
Okay.
So we're asking real questions to these GMs, to these leaders, to some of the leaders are in real estate. So these directors and GMs can learn about success and how do you look for it and recognize it. And then there's one workshop a month. So there's 2 lectures, 1 workshop every month, and it's a huge Rolodex of people. And it keeps going. PTR is signed on. So if you're a triple threat with PTR, you'll instantly become a member starting next June. But yeah, it's the Directors Club of America. Definitely worth checking out. Okay.
And then for pros around the area that look at this, and pros that are new to the area, maybe they want to talk to you about working for you. How would they get in touch with you with regards to maybe a job or questions about something else?
I mean, just look on my LinkedIn. My number's there.
Okay.
It's everywhere.
Okay. So you got it all there. So you heard that, guys.
Yeah, you can. The Directors Club website has it too. Call Royal Oaks. But yeah, always looking for new people, or if people have questions on how I can help them, connect them to get them jobs that they want anywhere in the country. I'm happy to do it. We have
one of many future directors that are breath of fresh air in this area. I know I'm in the talks with the Brook Hollow and the Dallas Country Club directors. Those seem like similar guys like you. They're nice guys. But listen, for all you folks that have tuned in, remember Jarret's a well-versed young man, and take some pointers from him. I know I did, and I mean that. And I want everybody else to understand that on this vocal platform, for every mood you're in, good, bad, ugly, we got a show for you. And if anybody ever hesitates, Jarret, this is what I tell people, and I've said this for years because I started playing because of my dad, quite honestly. If somebody's hesitant, just say, hey, man, come on, let's pickle. Just don't talk about it. Let's go. But look, man, you have a great weekend, and I look forward to meeting you in person, and maybe grab lunch or something sometime in 2026 when you're not busy. Thanks, brother.
Thank you. Great seeing you.
Take care, man. Bye-bye.
Coming through.